It's the Gauntlet. Let's go.
If you smell what the Gauntlet is cooking.
You smell that? Do you smell what the Gauntlet is cooking? On another episode of the Gauntlet Podcast. What's up, everybody? If you guys are new, make sure you hit the subscribe button. You don't want to miss all the great content and all the great shows that we're doing here on this podcast and on this channel. Without further ado, I'm going to get the crew in the building. Let's get my man, Jamon Nelson. What's going up, Jay? How you doing tonight, my brother?
What's going on? How y'all doing? How you doing, man? I see you with the Ronaldo drip. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's tough. It's real tough. The 2018 Champions League kit.
Yes,
but what's up to my man JJ, other co-host of the show? What's going on, my man?
Nothing much. How you guys doing?
We're doing fantastic, and we're ready to have another great episode. Much because of the special guest I'm ready to introduce for the first time to make his debut on the Gauntlet Podcast. You guys have seen him probably all over the Sideline Sports Network, whether it's Sports Arena or Sideline Sports or Carousels or any shows. My man John Shear joins the panel. What's going on, John?
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys inviting me onto your turf.
You finally crawled out of the
man. Welcome to the turf. Welcome to the Gauntlet. I hope you're ready to step into it.
I'm always ready. Let's go.
You finally crawled out of the temple and into the Gauntlet.
Yeah, you're officially stepping into the Gauntlet, and as we start off every show, we have our Sports Morons of the Week, which is where we take a look at the world of sports and some of the dumbest moments, some of the dumbest quotes, and things that we've heard throughout the week. So, John, I'm going to give it to you first since you're our guest here tonight. Do you have a Sports Moron of the Week?
I mean, I could take the low-hanging fruit because I live near the Washington Commanders, but I'm not gonna take that. I'm actually gonna go after the PGA Tour. I mean, what they're doing to these golfers and pushing them away, pushing guys like Dustin Johnson and all these other guys straight over to the LIV, and then making it worse with some of the things that they've said recently. I mean, PGA Tour was barely hanging on by a thread because nobody really cared about it as is. Now LIV just has everything over them. The only thing they couldn't take is Tiger Woods, but that's because Tiger Woods is Tiger Woods. I mean, he wasn't gonna, defect from the PGA Tour. But other than that, I mean, this is just gonna keep happening. So my Sports Moron of the Week, it's got to be the PGA Tour.
All right, and my Sports Moron of the Week. So I was kind of torn in between. I actually was going to do Draymond Green's wife and her criticism of the Celtics fans and her saying that, Warriors fans would never, when we have clearly seen it. But no, we're not gonna go there. No, my Sports Moron of the Week goes out to the Texans organization. Yes, it is my team, but let me explain as to why they are my Sports Morons of the Week. So the recent report has shown that apparently somebody on the Houston Texas front office or whoever it was actually supplied Deshaun Watson with non-disclosure agreement whenever he would have these meetings with these masseuses. Non-disclosure agreements or NDAs. Basically, they sign them, which basically says, hey, whatever happens, you can't hit me for it, blase, okay, whatever. Like, that is utterly disgusting, and it is the exact – see, it says to me that they were trying to do everything to keep the guy at the time period, But regardless, it's no excuse. It's zero excuse. It's disgusting. And all I got to say is for 2 years, I have had an outcry would be an understatement to cleaning out that front office. And all I got to say is this, is if it is 100% that this organization was complicit, I'm thinking along the lines of it's time for the league to force McNair to sell the team. And as a matter of fact, I think that's what a lot of us are hoping for. I mean, don't get me wrong, like this case is just all bananas. But what they did is disgusting, and yeah, it's time to clean out that front office. So that's my sports moron of the week is the Texans organization.
And ladies and gentlemen, my sports moron of the week, and it was very tough to choose, but I'm going with my man Dan Cilio. Dan Cilio covers the NFL for Gauntlet Sports Network. And, he says a lot of different quotes about, for some reason, he's talking about the Eagles a lot. He played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in the day, but he's talking about OTAs, organized team activities, with the Eagles, and he's putting quotes out there, and he's trying to piss everyone off. He's trying to piss all the Eagles nation off by his comments. So what he was bringing up was A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts do not have chemistry, apparently. And his basis for this is some things that were happening not in training camp, not in full pads, not like a legitimate real practice, but a 7-on-7 scrimmage. And you're telling me that that's a reason to be concerned about chemistry at OTAs? In the words of, shout out to my boy Allen Iverson, Philly legend, Sixers legend. As the great Allen Iverson said, we ain't talking about the game. We're talking about practice. We're talking about OTAs. Not the game that I live for. Not the game that I would die for. We're talking about OTAs. And you're going to say this is a reason to be concerned about chemistry. It will work itself out once we get into training camp and preseason. And as the season goes on, I think the offense of the Eagles is going to be very, very good and very much of the offense that you got to watch out for as far as trying to put points up on the board. But Dan Cilio, with his clickbait stuff, is who I have for my sports moron of the week.
Well, where's my camera time for a second?
I thought you said you didn't have a sports moron, JJ. Do you have one?
I said I wasn't really thinking of one at the time, but it's cool. We can continue next week.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
It's not for real. If you have one, go ahead. I ain't gonna stop you.
The moment's gone. It's all good.
Okay then, man.
He wanted the camera so long. That's what he really wanted.
So we got some people in the comment section. So let's say what's up real quick. Let's say what's up to Grizz. Thanks for tuning in, my man. And what's going on with Reaper? Reaper's a longtime subscriber of the channel as well. So thank you guys for tuning in. So our player of the week this week, guys, where we kind of take a dive into different players throughout the NFL and we look at their careers. So this week we have a really interesting player, a really great player, Walter Payton. In 12 NFL seasons, he rushed for 16,726 yards. He had 125 total touchdowns, 6-time first-team All-Pro, and he was also a Super Bowl champion with the Chicago Bears in that year that they beat the New England Patriots. Second all-time on the leading rushers list, and something very interesting that I learned about the nickname, Sweetness. So a lot of people said he got his nickname because he was a very charismatic, very nice guy, but it actually stemmed from something that happened until in the All-Star game, the college All-Star game or the high school All-Star game, where he pretty much juked out a would-be tackler and said, he said to him, "Your sweetness is your weakness." And that's when he started calling him Sweetness for the rest of his career. And I guess it was fitting because he was a sweet player. He's a great player to watch and one of the greatest running backs of all time.
You talk about a guy, Walter Payton, and mind you, this man was only 5'10", 200 pounds. And the thing that stood out to me also with Walter Payton was his usage rate. Because for a guy at 5'10", 200, 4 times he led the NFL in rushing attempts. 4 times. Usually, especially in that era, reserved for the guys that are 220, 230, 240, he was 200 pounds, We also talking about a guy who had the most consecutive starts by a running back at 170, 178, including the playoffs. So not only was this guy's usage rate high, but he was pretty durable as well. He was a 9-time Pro Bowler. Like I said, 4-time NFL rushing leader. He was the first to rush, pass, and throw. The first to rush, receive, and pass for a touchdown in the same game. The next guy to do it was LaDainian Tomlinson. This guy right here, and I think back to there was an interview a long time ago, and it was the infamous in Super Bowl 20, the refrigerator Perry touchdown, and actually, I think it was Coach Mike Ditka that expressed his regret. He was like, that moment should have been Walter's. He was the seasoned veteran. Walter Payton would go on to retire just 2 years after that Super Bowl win. So yeah, it was a classic moment and everything. But do I think the moment should have went to Walter? Absolutely. This guy, he's on the 100 greatest. He's in the 100 greatest Bears of all time. He's definitely one of my running backs. I have him in my top 10, and just an all-around great guy. Unfortunately, he was taken from us in 1999. His son actually played for the University of Miami. JJ, I think you remember. He was running back for the Hurricanes, and JJ, it's on you, man.
Dom's favorite running back, isn't it? It's always good to talk about this guy who I think is better than Barry Sanders, and I have him behind Jim Brown as the top 2 running backs of all time. The man is defined by the hop step over the touchdown, over the pile. That's kind of one of his defining moments when you think about Walter Payton, and he is the man of the year. I'm very happy, love the player, would take on any team that I draft in the NBA, NFL all-time list. And you can go back to some of the times I do those drafts. He's always number 1 with Jim Brown. Just a great running back, the staple of the Chicago Bears offense at that time. You don't think of anybody else on that team. You just think about him.
Yeah, so I'm looking at some of his stats. He once had a season where he had 132 yards per game. That was in just 14 games. He had over 1,800 yards. Now imagine if he got 16 or 17 games to do something like that. He would have smashed the all-time record in a single season. Like, I'm looking at some of this guy's stats. 5-time All-Pro. There was no fluke about his game. 5 seasons of double-digit touchdowns, 1,400 yards, 1,500 yards, 16, 1,300 yards. Like, every year is basically 1,400 yards, 1,300 yards or more. I mean, this guy was just absolutely fantastic. I think the second best running back of all time, I still think Barry is the best running back I've ever seen. I never got to watch Walter Payton play. I was too young for that. But I think Barry Sanders is the greatest running back I've ever seen. Emmitt Smith doesn't even come close. I know he has the record, but to me, Emmitt Smith was just a product of a lot of touches, and he was on one of the greatest teams we're ever going to see with, like, the greatest line you're ever going to have. Much like Troy Aikman, I think he's a product of, that team. But this isn't about him. This is about Walter Payton. I think Walter Payton, I mean, you look at his stats, and the stats don't even define how great this guy was. That's why just everybody loves him. Nobody has a bad word to say. I've had many arguments about players who I'm like, well, this guy's kind of sort of a little bit of a fluke when it comes to some of his stats. This guy is he is everything that everybody says he is. I wish I would have gotten to watch him play, a guy like that, because that is the epitome of what you want in a running back. Man, I love Walter Payton. Like, it's one of my favorite football players. He's got to be like top 10, like, players of all time, I would say. Players in general, he was that amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was going to be where I was actually going with this next, in terms of ranking the all-time running backs. So who do you guys have in your top 5 running backs of all time, and where do you rank Walter Payton? Jay, we'll start with you.
Walter definitely is in my top 5, but I have him 4 or 5 here. I'll just go through it right now. Probably even 5th, but I got Sweetness at 5. Let's see. I'll take Emmett at 4. 3, I'm gonna say. Oh dang. 3, I'm gonna say. Well, I would say because Barry's number 2. Barry's 2 to me. I'll have to come back to 3. 1 definitely is Jim Brown. I got Jim Brown at number 1. I would say number 3. Man,
OJ?
You know what? He hasn't. Oh no. OJ's down the list. He's in the 10, but he's not in the 5.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, and he was the first to get 2K. Go figure. Yeah, I would say I got Sweetness, then Emmett, and then whoever 3 is, and then I got Barry, and then Jim Brown.
So you have Emmett over Barry.
Say again?
So you have Emmett over Barry.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know what? But everybody's got their criteria. It's just to me, and don't get me wrong, like Emmett's never going to complain for having a great line.
I think you should be glad that Dom is not on this episode.
He's about to soften that blow.
Listen,
I got Emmett, but I've told Dom this, like Emmett's not going to apologize for having a great line. I've just seen Barry do more with less, period.
Wouldn't that make Barry better?
That's what I'm saying. Like I thought you just said that you were ranking Emmett higher.
No, I have Barry at number 2. Emmett's 4.
Oh, okay.
I was counting down.
Never mind then.
I was counting down from 5 to 1. That's my bad. I probably should have done that.
Okay, so I'm going with Jim Brown, number 1, just because he played in an era he played like 12 games until what John's point was earlier. If you put him in a league where you play 16, 17 games, he would have had one of the greatest careers ever. He already did have that, but think about how great his career was. It would have been even better to see that. So I have him number 1. I think he's the GOAT. And then I have Barry Sanders at number 2. Number 3, I have Walter Payton. Then I have LaDainian Tomlinson, just in terms of what he brings to the table. I think both ways, as a runner and a receiver out of the backfield, I just think it's amazing. And I also got to put Adrian Peterson in my top 5, just because of what he was able to do with, not a lot of great teams around him with Minnesota. In fact, his 2012 performance, where he was coming off a major ACL injury, he came in and he pretty much dragged the team to the playoffs en route to winning a league MVP. So I got to give him that respect as well. So that pretty much rounds up my top 5. JJ?
Okay. I already stated where he is. He's top 2, number 2 behind Jim Brown. Barry's number 3. Emmett's number 4. And LaDainian's number 5. That's just pretty much where I am with that right now.
Pretty solid list.
Yeah. I would have to go with Barry number 1. Like I said, he's the greatest running back I've ever seen. Just everything he's done, just on a dysfunctional, absolutely terrible team. I got to go Walter Payton number 2. Obviously, Walter Payton speaks for himself. Jim Brown, I have to go number 3. Number 4, I would probably have to say OJ. I mean, what OJ did, now I wasn't alive, obviously, but what OJ did was just, it was ahead of its time. I mean, the 2,000-yard season, just everything that he did was absolutely way ahead of his time. And then, like you guys said, Adrian Peterson, he took a Joe Webb-led team to the playoffs with the season that you were talking about, James.
It was amazing.
That team to the playoffs, and then he had to. I mean, I remember watching those games, and they were stacking 8, 9 guys in the box, and he was still
didn't matter.
Through. And Joe Webb was his quarterback. He had to play a playoff game with Joe Webb throwing the ball. That's one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen in my entire life.
I think it's the biggest carry that I've seen in NFL history, if I'm being real.
Literally.
So that rounds out my top 5. It's just everything he did with, like Barry Sanders, with absolutely nothing, and you knew that the box was going to be stacked with at least 8 guys, and they still got through.
Yeah.
Still were able to get through. Like,
I see what you did there. I see what you just did there, Grizz.
Yeah, Grizz, he was out there killing the game. On third on my list, I would put LaDainian Tomlinson. 26 touchdowns in one season is nothing to sneeze at. And again, he was the second dude to throw, run, and receive for a touchdown in the same game. I personally believe that Nate Kading robbed him out of what probably would have been his only ring, but that's another story for another day. So I got LT at number 3.
I don't know. I think if LT played right now, he could probably get 2,500 scrimmage yards easily in today's NFL.
Yeah.
So LaDainian definitely got to be in the top 5 there. But speaking of top 5s, we're going to get into another top 5. And we're going to go around the horn here, and we're going to rank the top 5 quarterbacks that we have going into the season. And this is honestly not, we're not a bunch of like geeks like PFF that, make up, stats that don't exist. This is completely just based off your opinion. So, John, since you're our guest, do you want to just start off, and who do you have as your top 5 quarterbacks right now?
Yeah, I mean, number 1, I think has to be Tom Brady. With what Tom Brady's been doing, he continues to do. He reloaded with his weapons, which is just scary. He went and got, was it Marcus Cannon? I think it's Marcus Cannon, or one of the great linemen from the Patriots, just basically for a ham sandwich, like basically for free. Patriots are just like, here, let us help you out. Here's a great offensive lineman. Rebuilt the line, rebuilt his receiving core. I mean, I have to go with Tom Brady. Aaron Rodgers, this guy just keeps winning. This guy keeps winning MVPs. I have no idea how he does it at his age. But we will see what Aaron Rodgers. This is heading into this season. This is not what he's going to do for this season, because what he does without Devontae Adams is a different story. But heading into the season, I got to go Rodgers. Then I got to go Mahomes. Again, heading into the season, we don't know what they're going to do during the season, but heading into the season, I got to go with Mahomes. I mean, there's so many great quarterbacks out there. I mean, you got Herbert, you got, I guess, Josh Allen. I mean, you can't forget Josh Allen. So many quarterbacks in the AFC. Josh Allen, and then
it's
guess
we get it.
I guess I got to go with Justin Herbert. I mean, you could go Lamar or Justin Herbert or one of those guys. They're really interchangeable. For rounding out the top 5. But I guess Herbert heading into the season because of what he has around him, and they just keep adding pieces for him. But there's so many great quarterbacks in the AFC.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm glad my team's in the NFC, so they don't have to play the majority of them. But I'll give my list. So I actually have Aaron Rodgers at number 1, and I actually think that the Aaron Rodgers disrespect has been incredible. Because, people are saying, what's he going to do without Devontae Adams? Well, he's a 4-time league MVP. Yes, he won the last 2 MVPs, and Devontae Adams was on the team, but guess what? He won 2 MVPs without Devontae Adams. So it's like people are not realizing that he was an elite quarterback before he had Devontae Adams on the team, which we all know he was. And then I got to go with Patrick Mahomes as the second one. I think he's the heir apparent for Aaron Rodgers, that guy that's just so talented as a passer. He can make things happen. I think that it is going to be a challenge to see what he does, without a player like Tyreek Hill going deep down the field. But some of these other receivers that they drafted Sky Moore in the draft this year. They still have that other receiver from Georgia that's really fast, Hardman. So you want to know something, and Kelsey's still there. So Mahomes is still going to do his thing. Tom Brady I have third. He's still got a lot of weapons around him, and there's a reason that he didn't stay retired because, let's face it, he's one of the most competitive freaks of all time. His competitiveness and wanting to win is just so high, more than mostly any athletes in sports history. So losing that game to the Rams and the way that he did and was so close at the end, they made a comeback. He wants to come out and, try to get another ring before he retires. So I'm looking at Tom Brady at number 3, and then I got to go with Josh Allen. His performance against the Chiefs in the playoffs was amazing. He's pretty much probably a coin toss away from possibly going to the Super Bowl because, let's face it, Buffalo would have had as much of a chance to beat the Bengals as much as the Chiefs did. And speaking of the Bengals, I got to go with Burrow as well. Mm-hmm. I just think what Burrow has done, I have Burrow a little bit over Herbert in that regard, just because of what I've been able to see him do in the biggest games. The Chargers made a lot of improvements to their team, but at the same time, I need to see Herbert lead that team in the big moments in the playoff games. Every other quarterback that I named on my top 5, they've either been to the Super Bowl or they've been to deep in the playoffs. Even these younger guys, Joe Burrow's, he's already been to the Super Bowl, and Josh Allen's been to the AFC Championship a few times actually. So I got to see Herbert in those big moments, but that rounds out my top 5. JJ.
Okay. I'll go number 1 with Tom Brady, because much as what John has said, Tom Brady is that guy. And, to do what he's doing at his age is phenomenal. And so I think he definitely has commanded the respect to be at top, because, sure, he didn't win the Super Bowl, but he was 2 years removed from winning a Super Bowl, and he has the most Super Bowls of all time. Number 2, I'll give it to Aaron Rodgers, because every time to be at his level and to not actually still be over 100 interceptions in your career because you're averaging close to like 4 or 5 is absolutely, absolutely phenomenal. And I think he's not really worried about having new receivers, because coming into the seasons, he's made it work with just about anybody. He's made it work with James Jones. He's made it work with, Jordy Nelson's, the Jermichael Finley's of the tight ends of the world. So he's been back. Patrick Mahomes, he's definitely up there, but there might be a little bit of kink in that without having Tyreek Hill. So we're going to see who steps up into that role, because that is kind of critical to what made Patrick Mahomes is having that connection down deep. We'll see if Juju can fill that role. Juju is mainly that intermediate route runner and not that deep ball. Number 4, and I'm surprised that nobody even brought him up. If we're talking about coming into this season, I'm bringing in the guy that just won a Super Bowl with the same team that he essentially had from last year, with more of an influence on this offense, because he has another year under his belt. And Matthew Stafford was an MVP candidate for majority of the year. So I will give him his credit at number 4, because I think now he believes that they can do it again. And they are a favorite in the NFC. I'm actually kind of surprised people didn't even, mention him. And number 5, I will go with Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen is showing that he has no fear, and I don't put in. It's not as if you can see it and say he's a quarterback that lost the AFC divisional round. He lost because of the defense being able to do its job against Patrick Mahomes. But every single time he matched Patrick Mahomes step for step. So I think he has really proven to be a guy that's going to be around for many years to come. I know that Dolphin down there was so hesitant about putting that man up in there. Yeah. Hey, who this Josh Allen kid is? Whatever.
I plead the 5th.
I did on that one. That was so funny, but I understand that. But that's my top 5.
All right.
Nice.
In my top 5, number 1, I'm gonna go with Patrick Mahomes. The man is still half man, half amazing. I know he doesn't have Tyreek Hill anymore, but I believe that he will become one of those quarterbacks that can make anything happen, just like you said with JJ with Aaron Rodgers, and his ability to make everybody around him better. I think Mahomes is next up in line as far as that goes. I once upon a time I thought that Brett Favre's best target was Sterling Sharp, and then Sterling Sharp got hurt, and Favre still went on to make a success of himself. He won consecutive MVPs. He won a Super Bowl and everything. He still made it happen. I think Rodgers is still Mahomes is still that guy. And he's going to do the best that he can with what's around him. He still has Kelsey. He's got Juju. No, Juju's not a deep threat. He's more of a possession guy. I think it may take a youngster, an unknown, that's going to essentially take Tariq's spot. It's just, it might not be this year. It might be next year. That still remains to be seen. But I got Mahomes coming in at number 1. I got Rodgers coming in at number 2. He's the drama queen, and he essentially pinned that front office to the corner, but he got his deal. Yeah, Devontae had to take off, but just like I mentioned with Mahomes, he has the ability to make everybody around him better. Someone's going to be next. Someone's going to be next to take Devontae's spot as his number 1 receiver. It just remains to be seen as to who. But you're talking about a guy, and Rodgers, I think, is on this side of 35, 36 years old, and he's still playing like he's 25. Like, that's disgusting, But I got him coming in at number 2. I got Tom Brady at number 3. Of course, he's coming back from his long retirement of 6 weeks. But But I think he's coming to run it.
Very short-lived.
I think he realizes just how close he was to coming back and winning, if not for a deep ball play, an amazing throwing catch by Stafford and Cooper Kupp. It's the Bucks playing the Bengals in the Super Bowl. My personal belief. I think that one player right there did it. But Brady, still playing at a high level. He has to be in anyone's top 5, in my opinion. Number 4, I was going to say Justin Herbert. Don't get me wrong. The man passed for 5K, and I'm excited to see what he can do. And people are going to shoot me for this, but I got Russell Wilson at number 4. We talking about a man that still is playing at a high level. I know he's coming off that. He had like a finger injury or something last season, but for the longest time that everybody was saying the Denver Broncos were a quarterback away. Well, they got that quarterback, and I feel that with the weapons around him, that Russell Wilson still is that guy, and that he's going to get it done. So I'm going to go bold, and I'm going to say Russell Wilson at number 4. Number 5, I'm going to say Joe Burrow. It's something about moments that motivate you. And Joe Burrow was literally one play away from winning the Super Bowl. I've said all this time that the Rams won in spite of Jalen Ramsey. If his line holds up for 1 or 2 seconds more, Burrow finds Chase deep and the Bengals win it. I think he knows how close he was. He's going to come in motivated. He came in motivated last season, coming off of the ACL tear, and he's going to come in this season. Yeah, and he's going to come in this season. See, and y'all know how he rocks. Y'all know how he gets down. He loves proving people wrong. He did it at LSU. He did it coming back from this injury, and he's about to do it again. So I got Burrow coming in at number 5. And I know that there were some people saying the Bengals will win only 6 games. I'm going to say that they win 10.
I have a question.
Because of that guy.
I have 2 questions. First of all, who the hell is saying the Broncos are a quarterback away? When you look at that roster, that's just me. And you're putting Patrick Mahomes at number 1 when you're telling me that his breakout guy might be a year away, might not even happen this year. And you're telling me that Juju is his number 1, and you're telling me that this guy
still have Kelce,
number 1 quarterback without Tyreek Hill. Congratulations! You could double Travis Kelce. Who else are you throwing to? Bracket him. You know what I mean? The guy's going to be 33 in October. Like bracket.
Mahomes is an elite quarterback.
You talk like all he had. Hold on. So all he had was Tyreek Hill. That's it. That's what you're saying.
That's an all-pro, all-world level speed. Yeah, that's hard to.
But are you saying that's all he had?
A lot of guys that have elite speed, though.
I think
that's not elite. That's all-world.
Think about
speed.
John's premises kind of tying into what's something that what's it called? James said on the other day about the QB whisper that Andy Reid is. A big part of that offense was the downfield threat of Tyreek Hill. Remember, they used to move him around all the time to see what our defense was going to be using in their coverage. So now with him gone, it's going to be up to seeing how they're going to get that type of production from somebody that has not been known. Mecole Hardman is there. He's a little bit good, but he's not 100% reliable. But that big play ability, that Mahomes and Tyreek Hill connection was a big reason why we got the Mahomes infatuation, because it was deep bomb after deep bomb, and it opened up the offense. We remember the game against the Bucks where he and Tyreek Hill in the first half had like 7 catches, like 235
some yards, yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see who is going to even come close to that, or do they use a variety of situations where maybe he comes a little bit more dink and dunk methodical, using Clyde Edwards-Helaire out the backfield. But it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to replicate what he did, because Tyreek meant a lot to that offense. You can't give him during the season saying
Mahomes,
he's the best weapon, and then when he's gone, you're thinking that's just going to automatically come back the same way. I kind of agree with John on that one. I'm very interested to see how that's going to move forward.
Right, and I totally get that. He is losing a big piece, but we're also talking about a quarterback who was going into his 5th or 6th season, and his basement was the AFC Championship game.
But you remember in the AFC Championship divisional, I think championship game against the Bengals, there were questions about the play calling in the end, and Patrick Mahomes' play that possibly led to them losing and not getting that touchdown that final drive. And the big was neutralizing Tyreek Hill. And so it's like we're going to see how that's going to move moving forward. And he has all the ability. He has all the talent. I do believe in him, but I also understand why John is sitting there thinking like, let me see. Because finally, you're going to be without one of the premier weapons in the league now. And you have to put Travis Kelce at tight end, but he's right. You can take him out of a game in certain situations. Travis Kelce's always been able to be the one that will make that big play in spite of, because you have to worry about Tyreek Hill on the outside. So we'll see. We'll see.
Right, but you're still talking about a top 5 quarterback. You're still talking about a top 5 tight end. So this right here to me, because I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, well, just because he has Tyreek Hill, Mahomes is going to drop out of the top 10. Ain't nobody saying that.
But I'm just saying, like, you had him at
what I'm saying?
one.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying.
No. Keep going, John.
You had him at number 1, and part of your reasoning was he might have a breakout guy next year, which has no relevance. You know what I mean? It has no factor heading into the season.
But most of what I was saying was what he still has right now.
What does he have besides Travis Kelce? What does he have? That's my question.
He's an elite quarterback. That's what he has. You're not talking about Alex Smith. You're talking about Patrick Mahomes. So, I mean, yes, he needs to take the next step as being more methodical as a quarterback instead of being like a big play quarterback. So it's probably going to be a different Patrick Mahomes that you're seeing. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be effective, and the Chiefs are still going to be winning. So that's all that matters.
I think that's where John is leading into with something that Jay had said about Aaron Rodgers. We've seen Aaron Rodgers make the best out of everybody. This is the real first chance we're going to see if Mahomes can make somebody else, because Tyreek Hill was kind of already making a name for himself when Patrick got in there, and Travis Kelce was already established. Now that he's gone, you really don't have – you got Juju, and we'll see if Juju is going to fill that void and be able to dominate, because you don't have to get the big bomb to spill a deep, be the deep threat, be able to still be an effective quarterback. Working 20 yards, working that going, just is making sure your offense can continually move. It's making sure your offense you to score at a rapid rate, as opposed to getting there and then getting shut out in the red zone, which is a lot of problems for a lot of quarterbacks, because the field shrinks up and you have to be really methodical in how you hit your targets.
How you hit them, exactly. And you know what? You're absolutely correct. It's like he's losing one of his big weapons. He still has who he has around him and whatnot. And you mentioned Aaron Rodgers and his ability to do it. I believe James is on the same page. I believe Pat Mahomes can do it, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's Pat Mahomes.
I agree. We're just going to find out.
I mean, I believe he can still do it. I just don't believe he's better than Aaron Rodgers. I mean, because we've seen Aaron Rodgers do it without that, and we don't know if Mahomes can yet. So that's the biggest argument I have.
I honestly think if they really want to, I don't know if he's going to do it. I think it relies on Andy Reid to start to run the football, because you can open up more. And the big reason is now, if you run that football, you get more wide open big guys down the field, which is what you want to do with Patrick Mahomes. But Andy Reid doesn't really embrace running the football, and you have a great line and a great potential running back who can run the football. So it's going to see if Andy Reid is going to adjust and finally realize, run the football, run it. Like that what stopped you in the AFC Championship game last year against the Bengals. And how did the Bengals keep getting there? Because who gave the kill shot at the end? Joe Mixon running the football. Andy Reid's got to do that if he wants Patrick Mahomes to continue to replicate. Because I think if you don't,
the two biggest things that travels are great defense and a great running game.
Yeah,
right. Playoffs, like you can't really depend on throwing for like 500 yards like every game in the playoffs. It's just not going to happen. So, but if you have a good running game, you can control the clock, and if you have a great defense, you're going to be able to stop teams. So those are two things that travel the most.
And I know we got
a number. Oh, go ahead, DJ.
Remember, they were talking during the season that all you have to do is bracket the Chiefs when they went 3-4, and it was kind of causing them a lot of problems. They figured it out, but defenses are smart. And it's like, eventually, are you going to figure it out? And then you have to adjust. We'll see if he can do it.
Yeah, and what I'm going to say next, John, I know you can attest to, it's the number one reason why Marino never won a Super Bowl. Don Shula said in an interview years and years ago, we depended too much on his arm. He only had 1,000-yard back, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, in 1996, in 16 seasons. So, yes, you have to run the football. And we're going to see if, like JJ said, Andy Reid can adjust and run the ball more, or if he's going to be too dependent on Mahomes' arm.
Yeah, you gotta.
He probably will be, but it is what it is, guys. Pretty good quarterback rankings. Next week we will probably go like 6 through 10 and try to like rank all the starting quarterbacks for the season. and
Sounds
see
good.
how our lists look at the end of the year. But in some other news that we have to share with you guys, big contract extension for Aaron Donald this week as he became the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Aaron Donald, 7 straight years as a first-team All-Pro. And 5 straight years he has double-digit sacks. He's pretty much the most unstoppable force in the NFL. Even if people are double and triple teaming him, he's still finding ways to get sacks and be a dominant player and have a major impact on the game. So as far as paying him the money, I think that, it's pretty much common sense to do so. Because if you're asking me right now, if I'm building a franchise, obviously there's the Mahomeses and the Joe Burrows and Josh Allens and Lamar Jacksons and like whatever young quarterbacks that you want to have to start your franchise. I get it. It's a quarterback-driven league. But if you're telling me to take a different player that's not a quarterback, there's no question about it. I'm going with Aaron Donald to build my franchise around because what he brings to the table is unstoppable, and his accomplishments stand for himself. I mean, he could retire right now and be a first-ballot Hall of Famer. There's no question about it.
It's interesting. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, JJ.
No, I would say Jay or John, take it away. I'll follow up.
Oh, it's all good. I actually, me and John were talking about this. We were on Sideline Sports with Eric, and I think the contract is 100% justified. Aaron Donald, we have seen eras that have seen phenoms as pass rushers. Okay, once upon a time, I said the same thing. We thought we'd never see anything like Reggie White ever again, the Minister of Defense, and then J.J. Watt came along. It's like, wow, okay, this dude's amazing. Like, there could be nobody possibly like him again. And then Aaron Donald came along, Aaron Donald, by the time of his retirement, is going to go down as a top 10, maybe top 5 defender of all time by the time he retires. By the time he retires, you're talking about a dude who, let's see, multiple DPOYs, multiple double-digit sack seasons, utter disruption in the backfield, and he isn't but what, like 32, 33, realistically, and he's been relatively healthy his career. I mean, he could, his contract's what, 3 years? Yeah, 3 years, $95 million. I mean, he could play every one of those years and retire right at the end and be good because I do feel like he does have about 3 or 4 years left. I don't think that he's going to go to the point where, okay, I'm just going to beat my body up and be or whatever. I think he's going to get his money, and then he's going to retire, but also he's going to help them win some more championships. I like what the Rams are doing because they didn't build by draft picks. They built by just signing off the street, and they are in win now mode. And re-signing Aaron Donald just gave them, for the next 3 years, more of a chance to win multiple Super Bowls. But go ahead, JJ.
So I think I want to touch on to what James had just said about there's no doubt about that you take Aaron Donald if it was not a quarterback-driven draft at first. And I'm not 100% sure I would actually do that.
Then who would you draft?
Because I think you're underestimating offensive linemen like Quentin Nelson, Zach Martin, other people. If you look at their trajectory, they're on the same path as Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald has missed the All-Pro 1 year in his career, and that's the same as Quentin Nelson. So I think because he has more in his career, it allows him to be easier choice to take, because I don't think it's a wrong direction to take Quentin over Aaron Donald, because both offenses and defenses can be built around them and still be just as effective. And head-to-head matchups, it hasn't been as easy for Aaron Donald to get off on Quentin Nelson and vice versa. So I can't exactly agree in that regard on that point. No, so that's that for me. Now, in terms of Aaron Donald, absolutely love the dude. One of my favorite players of all time. I still do challenge people and say at their absolute peak, that 3 to 4 year stint of J.J. Watt was better than what I've seen from Aaron Donald. And the simple sense of the matter is he was affecting teams on the offensive, defensive end. I think Aaron Donald could do that, but I think they have too much, and it's just want to keep him on this side. What I am interested about this is, I don't know if that story was true when he said that he would play only for 8 years or 9 years and then retire. But you signed this contract. I don't know how long it is, but we're going to see if you're going to actually fulfill the entire contract or after maybe a second Super Bowl. he'd be like, you know what? Maybe a second Super Bowl and a Super Bowl MVP. And then you're like, you know what? My career is good. I think the Rams don't care because I think the Rams have shown you they're not afraid to spend money. But, I mean, it's warranted contract. He's definitely a great guy. I'd love to see if he can play for another 5 years and get 5 more straight All-Pros, because I would love to see if he can complete what's considered, honestly, outside of Tom Brady's career, unprecedented, except for where you have like Anthony Munoz, who has done the same thing. Joe Thomas did the same thing, but we're going to see it from the defensive side. I don't know if I could ever put him over Reggie White, just because I think Reggie White, for what he did, and I think in a much better era of tackles, in my opinion, and the offensive linemen, I have to still give it to Reggie White. And again, the sack leader of all time, 12 games, 21 sacks. I don't know how that's honestly even possible. I mean, wow, but I think Aaron Donald will get to eventually. I think his ceiling is greatest defensive tackle of all time.
Okay.
I mean, this is obviously, like you guys said, the contract is warranted. To me, he's not the greatest defensive player of all time. I wouldn't even put him top 5. I wouldn't even put him top 10. I feel like there's so many great players that came and gone, like the Deion Sanders and guys like that. That I love Aaron Donald, but guys like that to me made way more of an impact defensively than Aaron Donald did. That's just my opinion. I also think that Aaron Donald shouldn't have won his latest Defensive Player of the Year. I thought that should have went to T.J. Watt in their respective year in 2020. T.J. Watt had better stats all the way across the board. And Aaron Donald, somehow Aaron Donald still won Defensive Player of the Year. It's a different story, but take nothing away from Aaron Donald. He's a fantastic player, one of the best, if not the best defender in the league. And the Rams had to do this, but I'm of the mindset that once you start talking about retirement and his plan, he said, coming into the league was 8 years, and that's about how long he wants to play. To me, once you start talking about retirement, you're already halfway out the door. And I think he'll be going sooner rather than later. We're going to see probably, in my opinion, about 2 more years of this. I don't think the Rams are going to go on all that long with what they're doing. I think eventually it's going to catch up to them with no draft picks and just trying to sign guys to huge contracts. It's eventually going to
they just signed Cooper Kupp to a big contract after they paid Aaron Donald as well. So it's like, I wonder where they get their money from.
Bobby Wagner, Allen Robinson, all these guys. Matt Stafford got his big deal. Like, if you look at some of the cap hits, I believe it's next year. This year's $24 million for Aaron Donald cap hit. Next year's $38 million. The year after is $31 million. So after this year, the Rams are going to take a $38 million cap hit from a defensive lineman. So even if it's Aaron Donald, that's a lot to take on a cap hit from a defensive lineman. So, and Matt Stafford's cap hit, I believe, is only $13 million this year. But whenever you start looking at some of the cap hits that these guys have, because of the way they get their contracts, Matt Stafford's cap hit's going to be about $49 million, I believe, next year. So some of these cap hits are going to start catching up to the Rams.
This is what the Rams are doing right now. They're going on the game. They're saying salary cap off. And that's how they're continuing. I don't know. I don't have an explanation for how they're able to continue to pay these guys. But for our outside of sports topic, I have an interesting one for you. So I've been thinking about this throughout the week about social media. Because at some point in the future, I do not think social media is going to be free anymore. I think stuff like YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, at some point, people are going to try to have a different subscription. They're already kind of doing it, but it's more optional because you have, on Twitter, for example, you have, super followers and stuff, to pay to see tweets. With all due respect, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to pay somebody to see tweets. That's just not my thing. But I just feel where the world is going, that you have all these different streaming things and all these different subscriptions and these apps that you can download. And these companies are making money off of it. So at some point, I just feel like people like Mark Zuckerberg and all the social media moguls, they're going to try to make even more money, just based on pure volume. Being a business person, that's what it's about. That's literally the point. So I actually see social media not being free down the line in the future.
You know, they say the bottom line of a business is to make money. Period, bar none. But I'm curious to know if they go this route, what the end game would be aside from making money. If there's some kind of agenda attached to it, some kind of schedule, I don't know. I personally think that if they do go that route, you're just going to start seeing more and more and more platforms pop up that are like free. And this is going to be like a social media war. I know it's a social media war
Hashtag
now.
only tweets.
But you'll see, I think you're going to see an outright social media apocalypse of some sort or civil war or whatever. If they get on board, Mark Zuckerberg and everybody, and they want to start charging people in full and whatnot, I don't know if they kind of feel like, well, we're going to gear this toward like the elite, and the way they can afford it, and just the common man won't be able to, afford it and such. And that's why I think you're going to just start seeing, because let's face it, anybody can make an app now, Like when I was going to college, we had a section called COBA, College of Business Administration for Business, and Cass was in there making apps. You make an app on anything. So all you got to do is just take a youngster fresh out of college or still in college that's doing the same thing, make an app, and boom, you got a new social media site that's free or very, very low cost. And, there you go. But
it's like the Rick and Morty website. Would you like to make an app?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to be very honest with you. If social media starts to be charged, you won't see me on social media. And it's not because I wouldn't be willing to to pay for it. I just don't see the reason why I should have to pay for certain things like Facebook, Instagram, and I think YouTube. Because at the end of the day, I think that's the reason why you have channels and people to subscribe to those things. Or you have Facebook has that little section where you can go to people's offer up and things of that nature, but I'm not paying for no social media like that. And I saw the whole comment about the Twitter being like OnlyFans, but newsflash, it's been like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is she talking about at the end of the day? But no, I'm just saying it's all good though. But it's all a money play. I want to strip the person dry. The dollar bill is going to have that little slither there because you ripped everything apart to get to some type of bill. Everybody wants a piece of the puzzle, and it's like Jay said, if you make social media. It's like the ride shares of the cars. When Uber and Lyft came out, they was doing this thing. They were killing it. They were rocking it over. Then they started making things and charging and making it higher and higher. So then what happens? This app called Via or this other app called Fair One where you can rent cars and stuff. And it's when you make something like no longer free, somebody gonna come out and say, "What's great? It's free." That's really what it is. Mm-hmm. And that's how all of them became that way. MySpace, Facebook, all of them went the same route.
Yeah. The only good thing I would say that if they did make it where you have to pay is it weeds out the bots, gets rid of that crap because you're not going to have people paying to have bots on there. Then it gets rid of some of the garbage because if you're putting your credit card on there, you're not as likely to say some of the things that you get away with on social media where people are being keyboard warriors. If your credit card is attached to your account and then you're going and making threats and things like that we see all that garbage on social media, you're less likely, I would think, to do that. Great point. Because you have your own personal information and money attached to it. So that would be the thing is that you might start to get rid of some of the garbage out there on social media. So that ain't so bad, that'd be nice because then social media would be a lot more tolerable.
Now, at the same time, I hear what you're saying, John, but in playing devil's advocate here, it could have the opposite effect. They could make it to where because you're paying us to have this, you can say whatever you want.
You can already say what you want. You can already get away with that stuff, right? People already do that anyway. People hide behind keyboards anyway.
Yeah, but man, okay,
if you had to pay for Twitter, then there would be no more keyboard warriors. You really believe that?
I would think there'd be a lot less. There's always going to be those people, but I think there'd be a lot less.
There's going to be that little kid that's going to use his mother's credit card to get on Twitter and then act like bad A. That's what
I think it would be a complete disaster. It would be like freaking kids. Go on YouTube and look up videos of kids stealing their mother's credit card and buying like $5,000 worth of like Fortnite. Like you can buy like Fortnite like things in it. I don't know. I don't play the game, but when I seen the videos, like they were running it up. So like imagine you take your mom's phone, because you know how moms are. They like let their kids play games on their phones all the time. Yeah, go on to Twitter and you spend like a bunch of money like to see tweets. Like that would just be a complete disaster, in my opinion.
They have to have mother named Leslie Yvette Crutchfield Tiller, because if you ever did that in her house, it is not going down. I knew when she gave me her phone.
I stayed
on the game. She told me to stay on. I didn't move from it. If I went off and everything, she had the records. And she said, "Well, Joseph, what's this? What's going on? Why are you? What are you doing?" And I didn't want that work. So these kids need to have her as a mother, because it wasn't going down in her house. I'll never forget her.
Nah, man. You gotta watch her. If you have kids, you gotta watch out.
I think if you charge people on top of that, I think you also open, just because, of course, from the financial standpoint and from being in banking, that's fraud galore right there. Social media is the biggest portal for fraud anyway for people's stuff. So now if you get people's credit cards,
people get hacked for everything,
and you get credit card stuff on these platforms.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people are hesitant of doing like Facebook Pay and stuff like that now, because it's like it's so easy to just hack onto somebody. I don't know about y'all, but I've been hacked before a couple times, and it's like not fun. And so if that could happen to a lot of people with their credit card information,
just imagine, man. It's dangerous to think about, but
all y'all gonna do is come to the bank and complain to us, and I ain't having it. Okay,
it just seems like the world is going to that point, though. Like everything's about money.
It's always about the money. It's always about something. It's always about money. Everything is about money. It's unfortunately what it is. We have changed the world and making everything is based off the value of something that is really a piece of paper.
I feel you.
Determines the value of yourself, like the human net worth. That is crazy.
Nah, but for real, JJ, I'm with you with that. If they start charging, y'all gonna have to call me, man. Y'all gonna have to FaceTime me. Y'all gonna have to do something, because I ain't gonna be on here.
I'm gonna have to write y'all a letter. Y'all may have to actually open up the envelope and read that, John.
Get the text chats going.
Yeah.
But yeah, only apps I would have is the.
Y'all gonna have to hop on PlayStation. Party chat.
No.
Everybody get a system, but I FaceTime, video, text, call. Go back to the pager days. So it's not. I can't do that. Like I don't. It's not. I can't. I don't want to.
For real though, but that pretty much wraps up another great show, guys. I want to give John thanks for coming onto the show for us as well for the first time. So, we're putting Sideline Sports on notice, and I'm going to call out somebody. I'm going to call out Jake Malik, because he is now the only person that's not appeared on the Gauntlet. JB, John, and Erica has all three been on here. So, Jake, since you want to be talking about my Eagles and being disrespectful, why don't you bring you and your Giants, why don't you bring it on here and step into the Gauntlet? I'm not sure if you have enough courage to do it, but I'll be waiting for you. I appreciate John. So, John, anything you're working on, anything that you're covering, please let the people know about that right now as we come to the end of the show.
Yeah, I just want to point out all the great things that we have on our Sideline Sports YouTube page. Not just the Sideline Sports show on Tuesday nights at 8:30, but we got the Sports Arena Monday and Wednesday nights. We've got shows every single day.
Good idea,
including you guys' shows Saturday nights, obviously. We have shows every night of the week. Make sure you check out our YouTube page, Sideline Sports, and subscribe and check out all the shows. We have so many great people. Like I can't name them all, but we have so many great people.
Absolutely, guys. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. And we will see you on the next episode of the Gauntlet Podcast.
Junior.
Make sure that you JJ, why you gotta be so stupid? Make sure you guys tune in to the next episode next Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. See you next time.
Thank you.